Okay, here's a thought. What if parts of your own genetic code, the stuff shaping your everyday life, actually came from Neanderthals? Like, imagine that deep history, tens of thousands of years ago, influencing something as modern as how well you perform physically. Sounds pretty wild, right? Today, we're doing a deep dive into some really fascinating new research. There's a key study in Nature Communications, plus some related work. And our mission basically is to uncover this remarkable genetic link between our ancient relatives and a really crucial muscle enzyme. We're going to trace how this gene variant got from Neanderthals to us and what it means today. So we'll unpack what this enzyme does, how the specific Neanderthal version works or maybe doesn't work as well, and what that means for people now. Connecting ancient gene flow to modern health and even athletic potential. Ready to stretch your mind a bit. So let's start at the beginning. Before we get into the whole ancient connection, what exactly is AMPD1? Why is it so important for our muscle?
Right, well, AMPD1 stands for adenosine monophosphate deaminase 1. It's an enzyme, and you find it predominantly in skeletal muscle, your working muscles. Think of it like a key component in your muscle cell's energy production line. It's really central to making sure your muscles have enough ATP.
ATP, right, the energy currency.
Exactly. That's what powers muscle contraction, everything. So AMPD1 helps keep that supply going, keeps muscles functioning normally, especially when you're pushing them hard.
Yeah,
and it's not some minor player. It's important to understand that when this enzyme doesn't work properly because of genetic mutations, losing that AMPD1 activity, it's actually the most common cause of something called metabolic myopathy in Europeans.
Metabolic myopathy, like muscle weakness.
Yeah. Weakness, fatigue, sometimes pain with exercise. And it's pretty common. It occurs in maybe 9% to 14% of Europeans. So it definitely matters for muscle health.
Okay, 9 to 14%, that's significant. Now here's where it gets really fascinating. The researchers found a specific AMPD1 variant with a Neanderthal link. Tell us about that.
Yeah, this is where the ancient DNA comes in. It's amazing stuff. They compared DNA extracted from ancient Neanderthal bones with modern human genomes. And they found something striking. It turns out all the Neanderthal genomes they could analyze carried a specific variant, a particular version of this AMPD1 gene.
All of them.
All the ones available, yeah. And this specific change, it's a lysine to isoleucine substitution at one spot, K287I they call it. This variant wasn't found in other ancient groups like the Denisovans. It seems to have been a Neanderthal thing.
Neanderthal thing, and we inherit it.
Exactly, through interbreeding. Modern humans moving into Europe and Asia met Neanderthals who were already there maybe 50,000 years ago or so. And, well, they mixed. That's why people today with non-African ancestry typically carry about 1% to 2% Neanderthal DNA in their genomes. It's a remnant of that ancient contact.
Right.
And this specific Neanderthal AMPD1 variant, it's still around. It's carried by somewhere between 2% and 8% of Europeans today, a direct genetic echo.
2 to 8%. So what happens when someone has this Neanderthal version? Did they test it?
They did. In the lab, they basically recreated the enzyme with that specific Neanderthal substitution. And what they found was about a 25% reduction in its activity.
Okay, a noticeable drop.
Yeah, but then they put it into genetically engineered mice into their muscle tissue. And there, the reduction was even more dramatic, like down by 80%.
80%. Wow.
Yeah, it really seemed to impair the enzyme's function quite substantially in a living system. And interestingly, computer models had actually predicted this specific change, the K287I, would be the most impactful among hundreds of other potential Neanderthal missense variants. It got a high score, a Reval score of 0.881, suggesting it really messes with the protein. There was also a case study of one person who had one copy of this Neanderthal variant and one copy of another faulty variant, a compound heterozygote. In them, the activity linked to the Neanderthal version seemed reduced by about half compared to the normal ancestral enzyme.
Okay, so the evidence points towards this Neanderthal variant definitely reducing the enzyme's effectiveness. What does that actually mean for us today? Especially, thinking about athletic performance. If you're pushing your limits, does carrying this ancient gene make a difference?
Well, it seems like it could. The enzyme clearly plays an important role when muscles are under high demand. One of the researchers, Dominic Muckhack, put it pretty bluntly. He said, essentially, carrying a broken AMPD1 enzyme reduces your likelihood of reaching top athletic performance by about half.
Reduced by half. That's huge.
It is. And it's important to note, they weren't just looking at the Neanderthal variant here. They also considered another much more common, non-functional AMPD1 variant. This one's a mutation called CC34T. It creates a premature stop signal. It's found in 9–14% of Europeans and was inherited independently, not from Neanderthals.
Okay, another way the enzyme can be faulty.
Right. And when they did a big meta-analysis pulling together data from 7 studies involving over 1,000 elite athletes, they found a really clear pattern for this common non-functional variant, the CC34T1. Individuals carrying it are significantly less likely to become top-level athletes.
Less likely. How much less likely?
The analysis showed a significant negative association. For endurance sports, the odds ratio was 0.55. For power sports, it was 0.49.
So roughly half the chance for both.
Pretty much. It suggests that losing AMPD1 function hits your chances of being an elite athlete. Similarly, whether you're aiming for marathons or weightlifting, about a 50% lower probability.
Wow. So having a fully functional AMPD1 seems pretty important for reaching those absolute peak levels.
It appears so, and it kind of makes sense for people with diagnosed AMPD1 deficiency. Even if it's not always causing severe symptoms day to day, it has incomplete penetrance, they call it. They can definitely experience issues during exercise, things like getting tired really quickly, muscle cramps, muscle pain, myalgia.
Right.
And some studies, focusing on carriers of that common C.34T allele, have shown things like reduced overall exercise capacity, hitting fatigue earlier, and even an increased risk of injuries, ankle, knee, stuff like that. That includes elite athletes who happen to carry the variant.
Okay, so it seems pretty clear it can be a disadvantage for high-level athletics. But what's fascinating, you also mentioned the study says most people carrying these variants don't have major health problems. How does that square? How can it impact elite performance so much but be generally okay for the average person?
That's a really important distinction, yeah. It highlights the difference between, the extreme demands of elite sports versus just regular daily life. The researchers suggest that while crucial under intense physical stress, AMPD1 activity might have only, quote, moderate relevance in contemporary Western societies, and that these variants are generally well tolerated by most people today.
So it might limit you from winning gold medals, but probably won't stop you from, like, climbing the stairs or going for a jog.
Basically, yes. For most people's everyday activities, the impact seems minimal or manageable. Compensatory mechanisms might kick in, or maybe the reduction isn't severe enough to cause problems outside of really demanding situations.
Interesting. But were there any other health links besides the muscle stuff? You mentioned something?
Yes. There were some slightly surprising associations found in the biobanks, but with some big caveats. In the Fingan biobank from Finland, they found that both the Neanderthal AMPD1 variant and that common CC34T variant were associated with a slightly increased risk of varicose veins.
Varicose veins, that seems unrelated.
It does, doesn't it? The estimated risk increase was maybe 3 to 6%. But when they checked this in the huge UK biobank,
Okay.
the link held up for the common CC34T variant, but not for the Neanderthal variant. So the connection is a bit shaky, and the overall clinical significance of AMPD1 deficiency beyond the muscle effects under stress is still described as unclear.
Okay. So maybe something there, maybe not. What about the mouse studies? Did they show anything beyond muscle function?
They did, yeah. The mice that were heterozygous knockouts for AMPD1, meaning they had one working copy and one non-working copy, they showed some interesting things. They ended up with about 10% higher body weight and notably higher fat mass, like 26% higher.
Oh, interesting. Metabolic effects.
Seems like it. They also had a lower lean-to-body weight ratio and slightly lower bone mineral content, about 8% lower. And their grip strength, relative to their body weight, was also reduced by about 8%.
So in mice, it affected body composition and strength. Does that translate to humans carrying these variants?
Well, that's the puzzle, because in the general human population studies they looked at, they didn't find a clear effect of either the CC34T or the Neanderthal variant on body composition or these kinds of performance-related measures.
Huh. So it shows up in the mice, but not really in large human population studies?
Exactly. It suggests that while the enzyme is clearly involved in these pathways, the overall effect in humans might be buffered by other genetic factors, lifestyle, or other compensatory mechanisms. It's complex, definitely not a simple one-to-one relationship.
Okay, this leads to the big evolutionary question then. If this enzyme is so important for muscle function, especially under tough conditions, why did a version with reduced activity become so common, apparently universal, in Neanderthals? And why does it even stick around in us? It seems counterintuitive.
It really is an evolutionary puzzle. AMPD1 is ancient. It's been highly conserved across vertebrates for something like 400 million years. Its job is pretty specific to skeletal muscle. So yeah, it's genuinely surprising that a variant which reduces its activity rose to such a high frequency, maybe even fixation, in Neanderthal.
Fixation meaning like essentially all of them had it.
Yeah, potentially, or at least extremely common. And then, even more weirdly, mutations that reduce AMPD1 activity popped up again, independently, in modern humans in Western Eurasia with that CC34T variant.
Right.
So it happened twice. This pattern strongly suggests that the evolutionary pressure that normally gets rid of slightly harmful mutations, scientists call it purifying selection, must have been relaxed when it came to AMPD1, both in Neanderthals and in modern humans in that region.
Relaxed selection, meaning it just wasn't as critical to have the super efficient version anymore.
That seems to be the idea. There are a few possible reasons why this might have happened. One hypothesis relates to Neanderthal population size. They likely had smaller effective population sizes compared to African populations of modern humans at the time. In smaller populations, random genetic drift can be stronger, and selection is less efficient at weeding out slightly detrimental variants. So maybe it just drifted to high frequency.
Okay, population size could be a factor. What else?
Another idea is maybe alternative metabolic pathways developed or became more prominent, ways to replenish ATP during exercise that made AMPD1 slightly less essential than it was before.
Like a metabolic workaround?
Kind of, yeah. And then there's a really interesting idea proposed by Hugo Zeberg, one of the senior authors. He suggests that maybe cultural and technological advances played a role in both Neanderthals and early modern humans. Things like better tools, maybe more cooperative hunting strategies, changes in lifestyle. Perhaps these things reduce the absolute need for peak individual muscle performance for survival.
Ah, so if technology or teamwork buffers you from needing maximum explosive power all the time, maybe a slightly less efficient enzyme isn't such a big deal anymore.
Precisely. The selective pressure eases off. It's a fascinating thought that our own ingenuity might have indirectly allowed this genetic variation to persist. Ultimately, understanding these kinds of ancient genetic legacies, how variants inherited from Neanderthals or arising later affect our physiology today, it just gives us such valuable insights. Insights into health, performance, human evolution, and the amazing genetic diversity we see.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. Our deep dive today has really uncovered this fascinating story, hasn't it? A specific genetic echo from Neanderthals affecting a key muscle enzyme, AMPD1. It seems this ancient variant can subtly influence physical capabilities, especially when you're really pushing the limits, like in elite athletics. It might even have your chances of reaching that peak level.
Yeah, the evidence points that way, particularly when combined with studies on other AMPD1 variants.
But for most of us navigating modern life, this ancient genetic tweak seems to be generally well tolerated. It's a really striking example of how our deep, deep past continues to resonate within our biology today.
Absolutely. It's written in our code.
So here's something to ponder as we finish. Consider the activities in your own daily life, things that seem totally ordinary. Could any of them even subtly be influenced by genetic adaptations passed down from ancestors who lived tens of thousands of years ago? It makes you think, doesn't it? How these ancient legacies might be shaping not just our bodies, but maybe even the course of human endeavor itself.